Welcome to Section 31, episode number 234. I'm Dan Hammond, and once again, Rogue is out on, it's not vacation this time. I think he's actually working somewhere other than a place with the internet or something. So I got, once again, Charlie, the chairman, to join us. Thanks for joining me again, Charlie.
Always a pleasure.
Yeah, I had a good show last week. If you didn't catch it, we talked to, what's that guy's name? John Corbett for about 45 minutes or so about band lists, or sorry, the watch list and errata and whatnot. It was entertaining. Anyway, but we're going to stay on the second edition page tonight, and joining us is the winner of the local tournament, I believe. Am I getting that right? Thomas, did you pick up the win in the last local?
Yeah, somehow. We did pretty well last time, so yes.
All right. Well, I know Rogue and I have talked about Thomas and Thomas's playing of dilemmas and his interesting deck style, and I figured we've got a what do we got coming up? Do we have a 2E regional coming up?
No, we have 1E this weekend.
1E this weekend, and really, yeah. All right, and I've got a 2E tournament coming up the weekend after, I believe, in Columbus. So that's why I want to chat. Thomas, you seem to have two types of decks that you bring to a tournament. One is a deck that looks like it's just a blast to play, but maybe isn't the most competitive deck, and the other is just you find some combo or set of cards that play really well together, and you just make it a tough day. Do you have a preference for something that you find super competitive, or do you go out on a limb and try to find something that's both super competitive and, fun?
I mean, I guess, ideally, of course, I'd like to do both, but I think if there's a choice between, it's just something that is going to win or something that's more experimental, I think I would usually just go with something that's fun, because really, that's I'm not we're not playing for big money or anything around here, so I want to have a good time when I come out to play. So if there's, I always lately I try and use at least one or two cards that I haven't ever used before, and just see what happens.
Does that change when we have a regional or another big event locally? Do you kind of look at your stable of decks and try to choose something that's a little bit more competitive, or do you just say, you know what, the more people here, the better, I'm going to have a good time and play my deck with Worf and all the women or whatnot?
So I think sometimes, in the past I used to try and pull something out and say, oh, well, this is, good deck. And of course, every time I do that, it always just works out horribly. It's like I'll bring something, it's like, well, this did great last time, and I bring it to the regional, it's just a disaster. So these days it's pretty much whatever I feel like playing, I'll play it, whether it's high level or whatever.
Can you talk a little bit about what you put together and brought last week? Because Charlie and I talked about it a little bit, but it'd be nice to hear what your intent was. What was the hook, and what did you do to make it fun?
Well, I've sort of been going through, just to sort of entertain myself. I've been making decks using all the different Kiras that have ever been produced. So this was number 8 on the list of Kiras. This was the Kira from Dangerous Missions. So I was like, all right, what am I going to do with this? So last time was Kira from Strange New Worlds, so that was already a Bajoran deck. So I was like, all right, I don't have to do too much work to upgrade that. So threw in a bunch of Vedics and kind of went with that theme, since I put in the the Burial that drops Vedics from your hand, which worked out. I didn't get a huge amount of plays off of him, but it was a nice little boost, a little boost at the beginning to drop, Vedic Yasim, a couple of expensive guys. We tried to get a few Vedics out. Jadzia Dax, of course, pretty solid. And
I feel like now I've made you give up what you're doing, and now that we're going to be able to look ahead at all the curas, and you have to mix it up, jump around.
Well, I've tried to change it up myself just so I don't get bored playing all Bajorans. Like the Fractured Time one, I did a Voyager deck and just dumped Intendant Kira on the Voyager with Inner Light. So I try not to be too predictable.
All right, I'm looking at the deck list here, and it's 95 cards. Did you do any downloading with this, or was it like a different deck every in all 3 games?
I think I did a decent amount of down. Some of it is just all the discard pile manipulation. I think Charlie commented in our game, like, what is this, the 2E Hexany? Because I was
Forgot about that.
going back and forth, and Souls of the Dead and Ranjan Karal, Symbol of Devotion, blah blah, this that, and sitting there for 5 minutes with Charlie's rolling his eyes. But
I had a blast. I love that stuff.
And of course, our old friend Brian of Feathers, that guy. I think I've used that guy in the last 3 or 4 decks I've made just because it's hilarious every time.
What dilemma was it that it wasn't this last tournament, but it was 2 tournaments ago? I wonder if I still have the picture on my phone. I don't remember what dilemma it was, but
I believe it was in unfair terms because they all died.
Yeah, it was like select 3 people, any of them who have 3 or skill dots or something all die, and I selected 3 Brian of Ethers, and it was the first game, and it was the most hilarious thing ever.
just those faces with all the sunglasses staring up. It's just
It's ridiculous.
God. But that guy just, that card entertains me every time I play it, because especially with Bajorans, it's nice because either I got it in my hand or it goes in my discard pile and I just pull it out.
So you win either way, right?
Yeah. And plus he's really good skill wise, because there's not a lot of treachery, so he's got that, and the diplomacy actually with the people I was playing, there wasn't as much as you would think with Bajorans. So he's good for that.
I do still have the picture. I don't know if you can see that, but 3 Brian of Ethers murdered on the table.
And you were playing Bajoran. Did you get them back and play them over and over again, or what?
Yeah, I was playing with some cluttering irrelevancies for skill cheating, so jump back. That was also in our game. Charlie filtered 7 out of 9 people before was it Temporal Conduit, and and the last 2 people were Vedic Yasim and Brian of Feathers, and so they had diplomacy and leadership, and we did the cluttering for another diplomacy.
So I was playing Mirror Starfleet with no-win scenario, no-win situation, whatever. I never remember which title it is. It's when you meet a requirement, randomly select somebody else to be stopped. The idea being you get multiple of those out, you use Mirror Trip to keep them from being destroyed, and then it's like I throw 1 dilemma and I stop you because it stops 4 people. Yeah, that never actually worked. but I played Temporal Conduit twice and both times the opponent had 2 people left, and both times they skill cheated to pass the stupid thing. So it's an extra free dilemma under the mission. It's like great.
All right, Thomas, I got to ask about going back to this deck that you played and some of your other decks. When you sit down to build a deck, do you write down a skill matrix? Do you just put in a couple of people that match your theme and then see what missions they match? Do you look at missions first? For this particular deck, this KN number 8, how did that go? Did you start it with the personnel or the missions?
Well, I think lately, and even before that, I think I tend to be pretty ad hoc as far as I don't write anything down or go on the deck builder. It's pretty much I'll start with a couple of people that I want to sort of build the deck around, and just kind of go from there. I think with this one I was looking at the Vedics to start with, and just kind of seeing what the skill matrix was, and looking for some good integrity missions. I think it's pretty standard Bajoran stuff for the most part. Investigate alien probe and amnesty talks. The one mission that I had quite a bit of fun with this time was the Ryza shore leave, which I hadn't really used before, but it was kind of fun figuring out which 4 people can I get to be the different species, because so it's like, all right, I got 1 Bajoran here, I've got a hologram already because of that guy, and I got Jadzia for a trill, so I just need 1 more guy. So I ended up pulling out the Tellarite guard. It's actually quite good for this particular mission set. He's just got weird random skills, but ended up working out really well. There's not a lot of officer in the deck otherwise. There's not a lot of bio exos. He just ended up being good, and then being a weird species was icing.
I always like those Tellarites. They find a way in a lot of decks. They got a lot of weird skills, and they just kind of they just fit.
I just kind of filled all the holes.
Yeah.
It might be guard. I think it was him. One of those guys was made to basically beat the 8-cost dilemma. The 2-8. Yeah, it's him, because he's got every one of his skills is on one of the 8 or 7-cost dilemmas.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, he's got the first half is good for Silkoski, and the second half is Whispers.
Yeah. All right. So back to your deck construction. If you don't sit down, you just got a pile of cards in front of you. Is 95 an average size? I know we don't play a lot of thin down decks around here, but that seems big even for this environment. Is it?
That's not too far out of the range. I try not to go much above 95 or 100 because it does start getting unwieldy. But I definitely like to go with the bigger decks. It's usually between 60 to 90 something. I always try and have a multiple of 5 so I can count how many cards I have. But I figure if I've got 3 of a lot of stuff. That was the other thing I was building my deck around this time, was this card, this bonus point card, Accepting the Past, which I don't think I've ever seen anybody else actually use this. And for years I've just have tried to figure out how to use this card, because it's one of those very few necessary evil cards that you just never see, and it really is a lot of bookkeeping to keep track of this thing. To set it up. So I was also sort of building the deck around that, where I was trying to have, if I was going to put something in, I was either going to have 3 of it or none of it. I think almost everything in here I had either 3 of, or there were a couple of 2s, because I wanted to make that as feasible as I could to set that up. So that kind of narrowed it down. I think a lot of times I end up with too much different stuff, and I got to cut back a lot. I think this time, because I was making sure to have exactly 3 of everything, it sort of limited the number of different things that I was tempted to throw in here.
Okay. Yeah, it looks like there's a lot of duplication. So tell me, one of the things that as I mentioned, Rogue and I talk about a lot, is your ability to, in your head, know exactly what skills I have in play better than I do. There are literally games where I go and attempt a mission, and you'll drop a dilemma, and I could pick it up and read it, or just leave it there, because I know it's going to stop me. And I have to decide on that next turn if I'm going to go home and play a personnel, just to try to randomize things just so you know I know exactly what I have, or there's one under there. I still have my 9 guys. I'm going to attempt again, and you do it again. You drop another card, and it completely stops me. What do you? I don't even know what to ask. How do you? Do you know what
Do you
I have,
do you have
or are you tracking certain cards? Are you what's your is there a skill you're looking at? Do you know your dilemma pile well enough that you know what you're likely to draw into, and then you can kind of keep track of that when your opponent plays it, or do you just have it all in your head?
Yeah, I think especially lately I've been using similar dilemma piles quite a bit. I haven't changed my dilemma pile a whole lot in the last few tournaments. I mean it's pretty it's targeting certain skills. So I mainly am just keeping track of those skills. Um, in this case, it's mostly like geophysics, archaeology. I've done ones where it's security or medical or whatever. So it's pretty much, even if I can't remember exactly who's out there, I try to at least keep a running total of how many of this have you played, and how many of that have you played. If there's only a couple of things to keep track of, it's not too bad. If I know that you haven't played any of a certain thing, then it makes it pretty easy. The only thing that I really have to watch out for is the skill cheating, which like something like what Charlie was playing last time was making me sweat for quite a while, because he had two Devellas sitting there, and so I was drawing into a lot of blanks, because at that point skill tracking doesn't matter too much. So I've always got to I try and keep the dilemma pile as sort of a mixture of skill stuff and anti-specific people stuff. So if there is somebody that comes out that is gonna pass all the skill stuff I'm targeting, then at least I can
Sure.
get rid of that person.
Do you feel like you could name off all the skills on a random personnel if I just shouted one out?
I think especially for the ones that have been around for a while, I could probably do pretty well. Some of the newer ones that have come out I haven't looked at as closely, but
what do you happen to know what Croesus has offhand?
Croesus has, let's see, Exo, Officer, Treachery. I think he's got Programming, Security.
Damn. Yeah, that's it.
Was I right?
Yeah. You didn't get them in the right order, because programming comes before security and treachery. But no, you nailed them all. Let me look at. I'm looking at my wall of reflections for another one.
Well, let me ask you a question, Thomas.
Yeah.
You sort of have a dilemma. I won't say it's your signature dilemma, but you've been playing it a lot since it came out. Shared hallucination.
Yeah.
It's a really good dilemma, and one of the reasons I chose to play Mirror Starfleet is so I could just dump my hand before my dilemma attempts, and you can just be like, oh, shared hallucinations, I'll discard my hand and stop 0, But what is it about that dilemma that you're not the only person that's used it? I'm pretty sure it's a fairly popular dilemma, but what is it about like?
I just it's hard for me to see any downside to it, because it's so good any way you look at it. It's 0 cost, and especially since I'm most worried about interrupt type skill cheater or bridge officers test or whatever, so if I can force you to throw away your hand, then either way it comes out as a positive for me. If you decide to stop everybody, then I don't have to worry. Sometimes it's just there's so many things you can do with it. You can bluff people and make somebody think that the next thing is going to be a stop, even though it's not, and so somebody will stop everybody just to save their hand, or even if you bluff and you fail and they throw away their hand, maybe they get the mission anyway, but at least you extracted a cost for it. So I just don't know what the downside is to it, because just other than Mirror Starfleet, it's I've been using 3 of them in almost every deck recently, because it's just I'm always wishing it's just such a great filter thing to put in front of almost anything.
Yeah, there really is no downside to using it, at least for the person playing it. I mean, I suppose the worst scenario is they keep their whole hand and stop everybody, and you muck some dilemmas after it, but you still stopped them for a turn. So
yeah, I mean, exactly. I think and I guess since you always know how many people or how many cards somebody has in their hand, I guess since that's public information, you can figure out if everybody's going to be stopped or if one person's going to be stopped. So you can at least you can plan it out. So if you throw 2 things after it or whatever, you can make sure you don't lose it all, or you at least get to kill somebody or whatever. But yeah, it's a great card.
Thomas, there's a card in your deck that I see 3 copies of that hasn't been used a lot recently. It's the Undiscovered Country. Can you tell me what did this work at all?
Well, I never actually ended up playing it, but it was sort of what we were talking about earlier. About a lot of times, if I'm going after a specific skill, there may be 1 or 2 people that come out that have that skill. So if I can get rid of that person, beforehand, then there's not a lot to worry about. Now, this is a pretty expensive card, which I'm sure is why nobody's used it. I mean, maybe somebody's used it, but I've certainly never used it before. So I thought I'd give it a try in the spirit of trying cards that I've never used before. I think most of the time I ended up just tossing it, but it would have been really good if I had gotten a chance to use it against Charlie, because I could have said Devella, and that would have saved me from sweating quite a bit, because it stops each copy, which I didn't realize until I reread it after I threw it away there. I was like, huh, that would be pretty good for that combo, or to stop somebody like Kirk or what's their Denatra, or Navarre, Silic, any of these guys that come out with either nullify dilemma or gain any skill. So that was kind of what I had in mind.
Let me ask you a question, Thomas. How do you approach new releases of cards? Because I didn't see any at the time, and I noticed on your deck list you didn't have any Return to Grace in there, and it's still fairly new. So, but is there something in particular you look for when new cards come out, or do you like to wait a while and see how they shake out before you start looking at them, or how do you approach a new expansion's release and deck building?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm usually not the early adopter for new stuff. I mean, Dan's been very generous in being the printer for a lot of new stuff. So I kind of, and I'm not somebody that's just can't wait to get the new stuff. I don't mind digging through the archives, and because there's thousands of cards that out there, and certainly plenty of cards that have been out for years that I've never played with. So I guess I don't feel a lot of pressure to go and try the new stuff right away. I mean, I certainly, once it comes around, then I'll, go through it, and certainly there's a lot of cool Bajoran stuff that came out in this set that I'd be interested in trying at some point. But I have quite a few more Kiras to go through, so I'm sure I'll get there eventually.
No worries.
I'm looking at your record, Thomas. You played in 430 TUI matches in the continuing committee era.
Oh
That's
my!
that's a lot of games, man. You're one of our most
Wow.
active players. That's great. It looks like I'm this. As far as TUI goes, you played against Johnny the most because you two are usually at the top table at the end of the tournament anyway. And then 81 times you played against Johnny, and then number 2 is me, and you've got a 56% win percentage on me. I don't know. I can't imagine why that is that high. I must have played you a lot when you were playing a fun deck instead of.
Well, I think you underrate yourself.
I think I keep thinking back to that. There was a tournament that you played. I think it was Infiltrators, and you just loaded up this mission, and I couldn't do anything, and it was like the longest hour of my life. And that's every time I sit down. Every time since then I sit down, I'm like, oh man, what's going to happen this time?
I mean, I don't know. Sometimes I wonder about this reputation that I seem to have. I don't know. I guess I don't know how it looks on the other side, but I it's no, it's. I think most of the players around here are always challenging to play, and it's. Maybe it looks easy or something. I don't know. Maybe I look like I know more than I do.
I mean, I think skill tracking, it's a I won't say it's a dying art, but the need to skill track went away in 2E dilemma play for a very long time, and you can sort of trace the origins of that, with the introduction of Klingon Riker and security drills and cards that made skill gaining rampant. That pushed design into a range of making dilemmas that didn't require skills, and then you could build a really good dilemma pile that almost never required any skills on it. And for a long time, that was the de facto dilemma pile, and you still see a lot of that now. And I don't know if skill tracking atrophied or people just didn't feel the need to work that hard at it anymore. But you're a master skill tracker, and that's I don't want to devalue your deck building or your gameplay, but being able to just I play counterinsurgency program and name 2 archaeology, and you don't have any way to gain skills, and I know you don't have 2 archaeology, and stop somebody cold. I mean, the number of times I have beaten my head against a single mission against you, Thomas, is impressive and maddening at the same time.
I guess. I mean, it really. Sometimes I'll go home and definitely I got a little bit of a headache from thinking about it too much, but I don't know. I guess I enjoy. I mean, I've built dilemma piles that are more just especially when the skill cheating was really rampant and everybody was playing with the pre-errata Navarre and stuff like that. It did become kind of pointless to even bother trying to skill track. I mean, and even now. I think I forget which tournament it was. Maybe it was the Phoenix tournament. I played against Johnny was using a Klingon Riker deck, and it was just it was just ridiculous. I mean, just walking through everything. But I think because to a large degree people are playing more just attrition type dilemmas. I think it's at least around here. It seems like people are using a little bit less skill cheating. So. It's become more productive to actually track skills, and it's kind of I don't know, I enjoy it. It's kind of a challenge. Keeps me interested and keeps me sort of tweaking the dilemma pile or making new dilemma piles focused around new skills. I guess I also like it because there's enough dilemmas out there that you can choose different skills to go after. I mean, I guess I always I like being able to use a dilemma that doesn't get played a lot.
You do that a lot.
I've been I've been using gravitational anomaly a lot. I've gotten quite a few just one dilemma stops off that, and I think it's just fun. It's fun for me to do something because there's dilemmas that are probably objectively better. It would be easier to get a hit off a GOM2 or something, more of the time. But I guess it's kind of fun for me to just do something different.
Yeah.
And sometimes it will work to my advantage if I think I had there was one mission attempt in the last tournament where Johnny was attempting a mission and he had the skills to pass. Yeah, I had drawn into gravitational anomaly and secret identity, and he had all the skills to pass the thing. So the only thing I could hope for was that I pull out one of his guys with the skill, and that he doesn't bring in another one. So I think it was Kevon that had the geology, and he went and brought in another diplomacy, assuming that it was a GOM2, which is not an unreasonable thing to be expecting. So I don't know.
Thomas, you're an excellent player. Do you ever have thoughts about going up, joining us one of these trips out to Gen Con?
I don't know. I guess it's a big investment.
That it is.
Yep. All right. Well, then I guess we'll wait for the next big event to come to San Diego, so you can play some. Some the awesome people who fly in can experience the wrath of Thomas's memory. Very good. Have you? I had said this was going to be a 2E show, but we do have a 1E tournament coming up. Have you put something together already? Are you ready to go?
I have not really put anything together yet. I think I'll have to go, and I'll probably just find something I haven't played yet, and just to give me an excuse to make a new deck.
How about you, Dan? You put something together?
No. I've got the last time we had a 1E tournament, I had kind of this choice between two things, and I tried one, and so I've still got that other one in my back pocket. I might try that. It's more of a research deck, if you know what I mean, than an actual deck, but I can still make it a little competitive, I hope.
Yeah, I have a research deck of my own. I have no illusion that I will perform well whatsoever this weekend. Daniel, if you're watching, do not pick me under any circumstances to win the Plenty Regional, because I will not, which of course means that I will, but so yeah, I'm torn between a research deck for our one of our newly launched design projects, or a fun, somewhat competitive deck I've played before, just because I understand it. So, because I don't have as much free time as I used to, and I figure there's about only a 50-50 chance I'll actually play this weekend because of some political reasons. But
political reasons.
Get into it another time. But,
all right. Fair enough. Well, are we still going to see you there one way or another?
Yeah, I'm going to come by. I'll tell everybody what I'm thinking. I've got a KCA deck put together that uses the I forget the name of the card. The card in
the station that lets do things.
Yeah, the station downloadery thingy, download sites. I can't remember what it was called. It's had so many names since we wrote it, but and then the other one is Fed Vulcans, where you use Amanda and Faltorpan to, all my Vulcans died. Oh, they come right back. Just play them all for free off the top of my discard file, and handshake away a whole bunch of Vulcans, bring them to play for free, that type of shenanigans. So It's a fun deck. It's a fairly solid deck. It's easy to play. And now that everything's printable, I can actually play it without scrambling to borrow the copies of cards that I need from the motion pictures.
Yeah, the deck that I was going to play is going to have a couple of a lot of backwards compatible cards that I do not have more than 3 of. But you hit the print button and you got all you need, right?
Yeah, pretty much. And I mean that's the big reason to play Fed for me at the regional is just security drills crazy good in 1E right now. I mean, it's really good. It's worth the card play. So that's what I was thinking.
All right.
KTA or Vulcans.
And we've got tribbles afterward, and whether or not Thomas, you speaking of reputations, you've also got the reputation of a battle deck that can not do anything for the first 4 rounds and go out once and destroy everyone. So I'm sure we will all be on watch.
I think we might have lost Thomas.
Oh, he made it so far.
It says he's muted.
Are
He
you
may
there,
have muted
Thomas?
himself.
Oh.
Thomas.
You are muted. Thomas, if you click on the little triangle thing there, it might say unmute or something like that.
You are now part of the broadcast.
Yay!
All right. Yeah, I let Charlie borrow the battle deck last week, and
Goose egg.
well, it's happened to me. So it's all or nothing with that thing.
Thomas, you're famous outside of San Diego because Dan and I think it was last year at Gen Con, Dan and I had a joke that no matter what the score was and who was playing, you were always within striking distance. So, you'd be playing random triples tournaments at like midnight, and it's like, and TV's within striking distance from California. If you want a solid prediction for this region, I got to put my money on Johnny because he has been on like the worst run of luck lately. He's coming second or last, and Poison won for 15 times in a row. So I just think he's due.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, then with that, why don't we wrap this up? Well, good luck to both of you on Saturday, and good luck to me as well. We'll all be fighting for the regional championship for first edition and dribbles. And right?
Sure.
Okay, good. I don't know. I've been so discombobulated the last couple of weeks. I don't even know where I'm playing or what I'm going to. So, and I'm going to post on the boards if anyone is in the Columbus area. Origins is coming up, so we've been doing an annual Origins second edition and triples tournament, but I haven't heard a thing from anybody about who's going to be there. Rogue's not going to be there this year, but I will certainly bring a deck and something to play. If you're up for it, then I'll post the tournament and come on out, even if it's just for the day on Saturday. I don't think there's any other business for today, so that is the show. Thanks to Warp 11 for letting us use the theme song. Charlie, thank you for hosting in Rogue's absence once again. And Thomas, thank you for joining us and have given us a little insight and chatting with us for a while.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Then for Sir Rogue, who is not here, I will tell you to expand your power in the universe, and I will draw to end.